You walked away thinking you won. The deal was signed. The breakup was on your terms. The confrontation ended with you making the final, dramatic line. You replayed it in your head and felt that rush of self-respect. You stood up for yourself. You got what you wanted. You were sure. Then, a few days passed. The contract you fought for? Every clause that protects you locks you into serving their long-term interests. The breakup that felt empowering. They already have a new life, a new circle, and somehow your name makes them look virtuous. The argument you ended? People now quote your words as proof that you overreact. You feel it in your stomach, that slow, sick realization. You never won. You were guided. Go back to that moment. Remember how open you were. You explained your feelings. You laid out your motives. You wanted clarity, closure, fairness. You showed your cards because you believed that honesty would protect you. Meanwhile, look at them. Calm, unbothered, almost serene. Their face didn't twitch. Their voice never spiked. They seemed so reasonable, so harmless, that you relaxed your guard without noticing. Most people confuse that stillness with goodness. They assume a calm person has nothing to hide, but the universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. While you were chasing emotional relief, they were chasing position. While you were venting, they were calculating. Every pause, every nod, every "I understand where you're coming from" was part of a silent script. Because they were not improvising. They were running a program. They tested your boundaries with small requests to see what you'd tolerate. They planted ideas in your mind and let you discover them later. They framed options so that whichever one you chose, it pushed you into the exact corner they had already mapped out. You walked away proud of your choice, unaware that your choice had been engineered. This is how the truly dangerous operate. They build a mask of charm, generosity, and moral concern, then use it as camouflage. In public, they look like the responsible one, the caring one, the reasonable adult in the room. Behind that engineered reputation, they trade secrets, break alliances before they form, and weaponize your openness against you. Power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one whose hand you never see. Most people follow morals. The unstoppable follow methods. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking, "Why would anyone do that to me?" and start asking, "What rulebook are they using?" This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. If you never want to feel that sick realization again, if you want to quietly flip the board on people who assume you are naive, you need that rulebook. The 15 hidden principles the most cunning people live by. Carved from Machiavelli's worldview. Sharpened for a world of contracts, breakups, corporate warfare, and smiling enemies. Learn them, and you will not just avoid being played. You will decide who walks away believing they won. And here is the part no one wrote in the storybooks you grew up on. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. It rewards those who move with strategy, while everyone else waits for permission, justice, or a sign from the sky. You were trained to believe that effort, sincerity, and a pure heart would somehow force reality to cooperate. Work hard. Be nice. Don't rock the boat. How has that gone for most people you know? Look at who actually holds power, money, and control. They are not the ones who played fair. They are the ones who played well. Power doesn't belong to the most deserving. Power doesn't belong to the most honest. Power belongs to the few who understand timing, leverage, and perception, and who act without hesitation when the opening appears. While you are asking, "Is this right?" they are already signing the contract, taking the position, claiming the territory you are still moralizing about. So the world splits into two camps. Most people cling to moral stories about fairness, karma, and cosmic balance. They tell themselves it will all work out, as a sedative, not a strategy. The unstoppable live in a different reality. They study methods, not morals. They measure outcomes, not intentions. They are busy learning how people actually behave, while everyone else argues about how people should behave. Machiavelli understood this divide with brutal clarity. He wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Why? Because love is emotional, it fluctuates, it gets bored. Fear is consistent. Fear remembers. Most people chase being loved, liked, and accepted, and in that chase they become obedient, predictable, and easy to manage. They trade power for approval and call it being a good person. This is the trap. Emotional comfort, social approval, the need to be seen as nice, as loyal, as endlessly understanding. These are chains disguised as compliments. When your identity depends on what people feel about you, you are already controlled. You either command or you are commanded. So you need a moral inversion. What you were taught to call selfish is often just self-protection. What you were told is cold is often just clarity. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. In a world run by people who are not playing fair, refusing to be naive is not cruelty, it is armor. Refusing to be endlessly available is not evil, it is leverage. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. Not so you can become a cartoon villain, but so you stop walking through life as voluntary prey. You are not required to be ruthless at all times. You are required to be capable, to move like a calculated predator when the situation demands it. Because once you understand that truth, the real question changes. It's no longer, how do I stay good? It becomes, how do I stay awake in a game designed to punish the innocent? And that is where the next principle begins to cut. And that is where this video stops pretending to be inspirational and shows you what it really is. This is not self-help. This is a field manual for people who are tired of bleeding quietly, while more ruthless operators walk away with the prize. You know that feeling when you did everything right and still got sidelined? When you were loyal and still got ghosted, overruled, or quietly replaced by someone colder, more calculated, less nice? That is not an accident. That is a system. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Power doesn't belong to the most moral. It belongs to the most strategic. Most people follow morals. The unstoppable follow methods. This series is about those methods. 15 hidden principles. A Machiavellian code distilled from the Prince, dark psychology, and modern power dynamics. These are the rules the charming, dangerous few already live by, while the rest keep asking why life feels rigged against them. Understand this. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. If you are here for comfort, you are in the wrong room. If you are here to be told that being a good person is enough, you will hate what comes next. This is for those who refuse to stay spectators. For those willing to stare straight at manipulation, reputation games, and emotional warfare without flinching. Because in every room, a binary is already in play. You either command or you are commanded. You either shape the narrative or you become a disposable character in someone else's story. Which role have you been unconsciously accepting? How many times have you watched decisions about your life get made in conversations you weren't even invited to? Machiavelli argued it is safer to be feared than loved when you cannot be both, because fear is more reliable than affection. Modern research quietly agrees. Dark triad traits, when masked behind charm and a clean image, often rise faster in competitive environments. Why? Because they understand something most refuse to admit. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. So here is how this code will unfold. Each of the 15 principles will arrive as a law, a ruthless rule of behavior. First, you get its philosophical root, from Machiavelli and the thinkers who understood power long before HR departments existed. Then, the psychological logic, how people actually respond, what triggers obedience, what exposes weakness. And then, it gets surgical. Concrete tactics, how to hide your motives behind misdirection, how to build a mask of virtue while you move ruthlessly behind the curtain. How to plant doubts, fracture alliances before they form, use distance, reputation, and emotional detachment to gain control in your career, your relationships, your entire social world. Pattern interrupt. Ask yourself this now. If someone were already using these laws on you, would you even see it? Once you understand that truth, you will never walk into a room the same way again. And the first law will show you exactly where the game really starts, with what you let people see and what you never, ever reveal. Law 1. Never show your real motive. Your motive is your softest point. The moment people see what you truly want, they gain a map to your weaknesses. They know where to press, where to stall, where to smile, while they quietly block every path that leads you to it. You think you're being honest. You're actually handing them the blueprint to control you. Most people are trained to put their cards on the table. They're told that transparency builds trust, that saying exactly what you want makes you noble, easy to work with, safe. But the universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. And nothing kills your power faster than making your desires obvious to people who are secretly running their own agenda. Once your motive is visible, others can do three things. They can block it by quietly closing doors and delaying decisions. They can bargain with it by charging you emotional or financial interest because they know you won't walk away. And they can weaponize it by threatening to expose, embarrass, or abandon you right where it hurts most. You either command or you are commanded. Revealed motive puts you on your knees before the negotiation even starts. The unstoppable understand this. They move through rooms with apparent openness, but their real hunger never sits on the table. What they show you is a decoy, a smaller goal, a harmless preference, a story that makes them look reasonable, cooperative, even selfless. The real objective stays buried 3 layers beneath what they say out loud. So they speak in vague language. I'm just exploring options. Let's see what makes sense for everyone. It sounds fair, balanced, safe. Behind that softness is a hard, precise calculus. They already know what they want. They already know what you want. But they never let you see how those 2 lines intersect until the outcome is locked and you can't change it. Cunning people hide their agenda behind socially acceptable narratives. They talk about team success while positioning themselves where every win must pass through them. They praise loyalty while collecting secrets that make disloyalty impossible. Research on impression management shows that people who perform morality are trusted more, even when their behavior contradicts that image. That trust is not an accident. It is engineered. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that a ruler must know how to disguise his intentions and be ready to act against mercy, faith, and humanity when necessary to protect his position. Publicly, the prince must appear compassionate, faithful, humane. Privately, he moves pieces in ways that would horrify the very people who cheer his supposed virtue. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. You aim it outward, to see others clearly, while keeping your own depths in shadow. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. So how do the ruthless hide their motives while making you feel like you're the one in control? In the next law, we break down the psychological tactics they use to do exactly that. Inside the mask, power lives. Most people rip that mask off the second they feel anxious. They overshare, they confess, they spill every desire, every fear, just to hear someone say, "You're doing the right thing." That need for approval is their leash. When you announce your plans to the world, you become easy to map, easy to block, easy to steer. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Most people confuse the two. They think honesty means narrating their internal chaos to anyone who will listen. They call it being real. In reality, they are broadcasting a blueprint of their weaknesses. The unstoppable do the opposite. They speak less about what they want and more about what they are willing to do quietly, without applause. Cunning people communicate on layers, what they say, what they imply, what they omit. On the surface, their words seem harmless, even supportive. Underneath, every phrase carries 2 or 3 possible meanings, so they can pivot at will. If the situation turns, they claim you misunderstood. If it goes their way, they insist they were clear the whole time. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. They aim it at you while keeping their own intentions wrapped in fog. Watch how this plays out in corporate war. A CEO stands on stage, praising a rival company. He calls them visionary, essential partners, a cornerstone of our shared future. The crowd relaxes. Investors feel safe. The rival smiles, believing they are secure. Behind closed doors, that same CEO is buying their debt, poaching their talent, lobbying regulators against them, preparing a hostile takeover. The public praise is not respect. It is camouflage. By the time the rival realizes, the board has turned, the votes are counted, and the throne is gone. This is how power doesn't belong to the loud. It belongs to the masked. You either command, or you are commanded, and command requires misdirection. The most dangerous players will even weaponize softness. They use false vulnerability. They share a controlled confession, a harmless secret, a curated struggle that makes them look open and human. I get insecure too. I've made so many mistakes. It feels intimate, but notice this, nothing they reveal can be used against them. Once you understand that truth, you see the trap. When someone appears transparent and self-effacing, most people relax their guard. They project goodness onto that person. They stop asking, what do they gain if I trust them? They stop noticing inconsistencies. Because the emotional comfort of they're just like me is too soothing to surrender. That is where the ambush waits. Not in open hostility, but in the arms of the person who seems safest. So how do you protect yourself without turning paranoid? And how do you build your own mask without losing your soul? In the next law, we dissect exactly that line. Law 1 was about seeing through other people. This one is about making sure they never fully see through you. Most people walk through life with their diary wide open. They narrate everything. I'm upset because, I want this because, I'm scared that. They think sharing their internal state earns connection. It doesn't. It hands over leverage. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. And nothing is more decisive than choosing what stays inside your head. Your first move: stop narrating your motives to anyone who has not earned deep trust. Feel anger? You don't need to explain it. Want something? You don't need a speech about why. Afraid of losing something? You don't need to confess that fear in real time. The unstoppable understand that every explanation is a map to their pressure points. Why would you draw that map for free? Instead, you weaponize opacity. When people probe, you answer with controlled fog. They ask, why do you want that promotion? You reply, why do you ask? They push, so what's your exact plan? You say, I'm exploring a few angles, ranges instead of exact numbers, themes instead of blueprints, sometime this year instead of next Tuesday at 9. I'm focused on building leverage instead of I'm doing A, B, C with these 3 people. You either command or you are commanded, and the one who reveals less always negotiates from higher ground. Next, you build a default mask. Calm, slightly detached, unhurried. You train your face and your voice to communicate one message: nothing here is life or death. When you win, you stay composed. When you lose, you stay composed. No visible urgency. No frantic energy. Why? Because urgency announces where you can be controlled. If they can see what you need, they can threaten it. Your mask denies them that clarity. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. You keep it pointed outward, not inward. Here is the discipline most will never master, separating what you feel from what you show. Someone disrespects you and your chest floods with heat. You do nothing. For 5 seconds, 10, you delay the visible reaction. You let the first wave crash in private, behind your eyes, not on the table. Emotional delay is not repression, it is control. It lets you respond from strategy instead of from the wound they just touched. And yes, people will call you distant. They will say you've become cold. What they really mean is that their usual tricks stopped working. Once you understand that truth, you stop apologizing for being unreadable. From now on, your motives are a private asset, not public property. If someone wants access to what you're really after, they will have to earn that privilege. In the next law, you'll learn how to make them work for it without ever realizing that's what they're doing. Law 2. Build a mask of virtue. Operate in the dark. Your motives are now private. Good. Now you weaponize what they can see. Here is the law. Your visible image must be cleaner than your private reality. The more virtuous you appear, the more ruthlessly you can act without suspicion. Most people reverse this. They sin in public and apologize in private, then wonder why no one trusts them when it matters. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. And nothing makes you more decisive than knowing your reputation will cushion the impact. When they see you as moral, selfless, one of the good ones, you gain a terrifying advantage. You can pull harder, push further, and still be defended by the very people you're exploiting. Research on impression management is brutal about this. People trust those who project morality, even when their behavior contradicts that image. A carefully curated ethical persona makes others discount red flags. They explain away inconsistencies. They say, that doesn't sound like them, while the evidence is right in front of their face. Once you understand that truth, you stop trying to be good and start learning to look good. Machiavelli laid it out without flinching. A prince, he said, must seem merciful, faithful, humane, and religious, but be ready to act against all of these when necessary. Seem, that one word separates the unstoppable from the obedient. You either command or you are commanded, and command in this world is granted to those who appear safe while holding a knife behind their back. This is engineered reputation, nothing accidental. Every public act, every social media post, every visible gesture is part of a long game mask. You show restraint in small conflicts, so when you strike hard in a big one, they assume you were forced. You donate once in public, so 10 selfish moves disappear behind that single story they love to repeat about you. You become the reliable one at work, so when you push a rival out of position, it looks like a tragic misunderstanding, not a calculated removal. You cultivate an image of loyalty, so when you finally walk away from someone draining your power, bystanders blame them, not you. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. You aim it at their perception, not your conscience. Understand what this mask buys you. Trust, slack, benefit of the doubt. People will obey harmful instructions as long as authority appears confident, consistent, and unbothered by guilt. That is the psychology you are playing with. You are not chasing approval, you are manufacturing it. In the next law, you'll see how the most cunning design this mask years in advance, laying down stories, habits, and proof of their goodness so deeply that when they finally make a ruthless move, people refuse to believe they were capable of it. The betrayal feels impossible. That is not an accident, that is architecture. So the mask isn't an accessory, it's infrastructure. The most dangerous people you'll ever meet don't wait until they need protection to build it. They spend years engineering a reputation so clean, so virtuous, that when they finally strike, the world defends them for free. How do they do it? They overinvest in what can be seen: public donations, loud charity, carefully staged random acts of kindness. They sponsor the scholarship with their name on it. They film the hospital visit. They post the apology thread. These things cost them little in real power, but they generate a story about who they are that buys them something priceless: automatic benefit of the doubt. Most people confuse visible morality with actual character. They see a leader crying on camera, a CEO cutting a check, a creator speaking about mental health, and they surrender their clarity. They forget that the universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. The unstoppable understand this, so they treat generosity as a campaign expense, not a spiritual calling. It's advertising. It's armor. Watch a skilled politician in crisis. When they know a brutal scandal is buried in their past, they will leak a smaller one first: a college cheating incident, an offensive joke, a minor affair. They courageously confess it on a friendly show, choke up on cue, and talk about growth. Now they look transparent, human, relatable, and under that staged honesty, the real rot stays hidden. By feeding the public a controlled wound, they vaccinate themselves against the fatal disease. Then they outsource the defense of their halo. They collect third-party endorsements the way others collect receipts. Testimonials from respected figures. Public praise from charities. Strategic friendships with people the crowd already trusts. So when their character is questioned, they don't have to argue. Others rush in with, "That doesn't sound like them. They've done so much good." Power doesn't belong to the one who shouts the loudest. It belongs to the one whose allies shout for them. Front stage, everything is immaculate. Emails written as if a jury will read them. Meetings recorded with perfect politeness. Texts that could be printed on a billboard. Backstage, the real game begins. Phone calls with no logs. Conversations on walks. Threats delivered through intermediaries. Deals made in rooms where devices stay outside. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. They reserve it for themselves and deny it to everyone else. Here is the trap. Once people emotionally invest in seeing someone as good, they will twist reality to protect that belief. They will ignore red flags, explain away inconsistencies, and attack anyone who points to the cracks. You either command or you are commanded by that bias. The cunning exploit it mercilessly, operating with a wide margin for cruelty because their mask absorbs the blame. And this is where the game turns even darker, because the next law isn't about how they hide what they do, but how they quietly rewrite what you remember. They don't just rewrite what you remember, they rewrite who you think they are. That's the mask. Most people let reputation happen to them. They leak emotions, overshare motives, beg for approval, and then wonder why they're so easy to corner. The unstoppable do the opposite. They engineer a public image so consistent, so strategically clean, that when something ugly surfaces, people defend them automatically. Your job now is to become one of them, without losing control of who's really behind the mask. Start with a decision, not a feeling, a decision about what you will be known for. Choose 3 traits: reliability, fairness, competence. That's your armor. From this moment, you over-signal those traits in ways that cost you little but speak loudly to everyone watching. Show up early when others drift in on time. Follow through on small promises no one would blame you for forgetting. Reply when you say you will. Deliver when you say you can. Boring? Exactly. Boring is believable. Then you add something most never dare to use: controlled vulnerability. Publicly admit minor mistakes before anyone can weaponize them. I misread that deadline. I underestimated that task. Small errors, owned fast. This creates a dangerous illusion. If they were hiding something, they wouldn't be this honest. That illusion protects you when the real battles begin. Next, give credit like a ruler who knows power doesn't belong to the insecure. Praise people by name in public. Highlight their contributions in messages others can see. You lose nothing. You gain a track record of fairness that makes it psychologically harder for them to believe you'd ever be ruthless. When someone attacks you later, they won't just face you. They'll face the loyalty your mask has engineered. Now the darker part: separation of channels. Your public life and your private moves cannot live in the same space. Treat every digital message as if it will be read in court, out loud, to a room full of enemies. Do you want that text on a screen behind you while someone smirks? If not, don't send it. Keep sensitive conversations offline, in person, with no record for the vindictive to resurrect. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Use it on yourself first. Ask, if this leaked, would it shatter my mask or reinforce it? Once you understand that truth, you stop ranting in group chats, stop confessing strategy to people who haven't earned it, stop leaving written evidence of emotions you will not feel forever. Then, cultivate allies who profit from your good image. This is where it turns from self-help into something colder. Strategic allies are not just friends. They are people whose status, comfort, or income rises when your reputation stays clean. You send them opportunities. You connect them with resources. You solve problems quietly for them. Over time, they develop a vested interest in defending your name, because an attack on you threatens their benefits. Notice what you're doing here. You're building a shield that other people help you maintain. When someone whispers, "Are they really like that?" your allies rush to correct the narrative, not out of loyalty alone, but out of self-preservation. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. From now on, your public persona is not an accident, it is a deliberate construct, a mask you forge, polish, and protect, so that when you eventually make hard, unpopular moves, when you say no where others would fold, when you choose what is effective over what is pleasing, people still assume you're the good one in the story. They bend the facts to fit the mask you built. And once your mask is strong enough to survive impact, you unlock the next law: how to use that protected image as cover to move in ways others would never dare, while they still call you safe, reasonable, even moral. That safe, reasonable, moral image is not the destination, it's the camouflage. Once people accept the mask, you gain access to the real battlefield: information. Law 3 is brutal in its simplicity. Power belongs to whoever controls what is known, when it's known, and how it's framed. For most people, reality is not what happened. It's the story they've heard the most, from the voice that sounds the most certain. Most people treat information like gossip, like entertainment. They trade secrets for attention, spill details for comfort, and call it being honest or open. The unstoppable treat information as currency, weapon, and shield. You do not speak to feel lighter, you speak to move pieces. You withhold to stay untouchable. You leak to steer the room. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness about what flows and what never sees daylight. Social psychology has been screaming this for decades. People obey confident, consistent authority, especially when information is one-sided and alternatives are hidden. When one narrative dominates, the human brain stops questioning and starts obeying. Not because it is true, because it is repeated, framed, and delivered without visible doubt. Look at every scandal you've ever seen explode. The person shouting the loudest is almost never the one with the real power. The truly dangerous figure is quieter. They sit in the back, feeding certain facts to certain people, letting other facts die in silence. They decide which screenshots get shared and which messages get deleted. They choose who hears which version of the story and in what order. By the time the crowd reacts, their reactions were scripted days ago. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking, "Is this fair?" and start asking, "Who is controlling the story?" You either command or you are commanded, and in the modern world, command is exercised through perception. Control the inputs, and you own the conclusions people swear they reached on their own. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination, because the one who filters information decides who looks loyal and who looks treacherous, who appears strong and who appears unstable. They can make a competent rival seem dangerous, or a dangerous ally seem indispensable, and no one ever traces the chaos back to them, because they were just passing things along. In the next law, you'll see how the most Machiavellian operators go further. They don't just filter information, they plant doubts like landmines, weaponize secrets as silent blackmail, and break alliances before they even form, all by steering what people hear when they hear it and what they're never allowed to know. This is where war goes quiet, where nothing explodes, but everything shifts. The cunning rarely waste energy on blatant lies. Why would they, when incomplete truth is so much more dangerous? They repeat what actually happened, minus one detail. They ask a question instead of making an accusation. Are you sure that's what they meant? Did you notice how they reacted in that meeting? They don't tell you what to think. They make you doubt that you can trust what you saw. Most people crave certainty. They want events to line up, people to be consistent, motives to be clean. The unstoppable use that hunger against them. One carefully placed question, one innocent remark, and suddenly two allies start replaying the same moment with different stories in their heads. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. And they wield confusion like smoke, so everyone else loses their aim while they keep theirs. Then comes poisoned praise. They compliment in public, contaminate in private. Oh, Jenna is brilliant, no doubt. She just gets overwhelmed sometimes. I worry the pressure might be too much for her. Hear it? On the surface, it's admiration. Underneath, it's a quiet seed of doubt. No direct attack. No open criticism. Just a subtle question mark stapled to someone's name. You see this most clearly at work. The manipulator never storms into the manager's office shouting accusations. They lean on the doorframe, voice low, expression concerned. Hey, just flagging something. Mark's been under a lot of stress lately. He's amazing, I just don't want him to burn out on this client. To the manager, it sounds responsible, even loyal, but the story is set. Mark equals stress. Stress equals risk. When promotion time comes, that concern whispers in the back of the manager's mind. This is how reputations are engineered, not with public attacks, but with quiet, repeated suggestions that someone is fragile, unstable, not quite ready. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. While most people hope their work will speak for itself, the manipulator speaks for them, rewriting their narrative one offhand comment at a time. And behind all of this, they collect. Secrets are not gossip to them. They are currency. Every venting session, every late-night confession, every don't tell anyone but goes into a mental file. Mistakes, addictions, affairs, ambitions, they rarely use it immediately. Power doesn't belong to the one who reacts. It belongs to the one who waits. Years later, when a contract, an alliance, or a betrayal hangs in the balance, that file opens. A reminder. A hint. A threat that never needs to be spoken directly. Understand this. Psychological warfare does not begin when people start yelling. It begins in whispers, side conversations, hallway check-ins that look harmless. By the time open conflict appears, loyalties have already shifted, alliances already cracked, and you are walking into a battlefield that was mapped without you. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking, "Why did they turn on me?" and start asking, who was talking to them before they did. Because in the next law, you'll see how the most dangerous players don't just twist perception, they erase your ability to defend yourself at all. By attacking the one thing you assume is always on your side. By attacking the one thing you assume is always on your side. Conversation, you think you're just talking, just updating, just venting. But every word you drop is raw material for someone else's strategy. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. And the most decisive players do something you were never taught to do. They stop talking first. They start listening. Most people treat silence like awkwardness. They rush to fill it with details, feelings, secrets. The unstoppable treat silence like a vault. You become the quiet center of the web by reversing your instinct. You don't compete to be heard. You compete to hear more than anyone else in the room. So you shift. From performer to observer. From narrator to archive. You ask neutral, open-ended questions. How did that play out? What happened next? You let people keep going. You nod. You give short prompts. You do not react like a fire alarm. You react like a mirror. Calm, reflective, controlled. This is where the asymmetry begins. They tell you everything. You tell them almost nothing. When they confess a secret, you do not rush to balance it with one of your own. That urge is weakness disguised as bonding. You let the imbalance stand. You leave with data. They leave with the illusion of intimacy. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. As they talk, you are mapping. Who hates whom? Who feels overlooked? Who is ambitious, insecure, volatile? You are not just in conversations, you are building a living diagram of loyalties and fractures. While most people chase approval, you collect information, quietly, relentlessly. But understand this, information is explosive. Handled wrong, it blows up in your face. Handled right, it detonates exactly where you aim. That means you do not repeat sensitive information upward or outward just to feel important. You are not a gossip. You are an armory. You only deploy what you know when there is a clear, calculated purpose, and when you cannot be traced. So you strip fingerprints. You change details. You frame it as something I heard around instead of X told me. You let time pass so the trail goes cold. You leak through intermediaries whose mouths are already loose. If it can come back to you, it is not strategy. It is self-sabotage. And when you do speak, you never drop information raw. You frame it. You attach context, tone, implication. He's overwhelmed, that's why he's snapping at people. Calms a mob. She's been meeting with the executives a lot. Plants quiet panic. Same fact. Different framing. Different outcome. You either command or you are commanded. Pattern interrupt. Who is doing this to you right now? Who listens more than they talk and somehow always stands just outside the blast radius when drama hits? From this point forward, you are not just in the social bloodstream. You are the filter. You decide what circulates and what clots. You decide which rumors die in your hands and which truths travel further with a twist. Because in the next law, you'll see how the real predators take this one step further. They don't just guide conversations, they engineer reputations themselves, building masks so convincing that by the time you see the monster underneath, it's already too late. Masks are useful, but a mask alone doesn't keep people in line. Law 4 is where the monster underneath learns how to smile and when to bite. Law 4, be predictably fair, strategically ruthless. Your baseline must be stability. People should know that if they deal with you honestly, you are consistent, fair, reliable, they can forecast your response. They can breathe around you. That predictability is not weakness, it is infrastructure. It is how you convince people that alignment with you is the safest place in a dangerous universe. But here is the part the unstoppable understand. Your response to betrayal or disrespect must be violent enough, sharp enough, unforgettable enough that the cost burns into memory. One clean strike. No tantrum. No drama. Just consequence. You do not snap at every annoyance. You reserve your cruelty for those moments when someone tries to test your boundaries, and you make sure they never want to test them again. Machiavelli was clear. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. He argued that cruelty, when well used and concentrated, stabilizes power more effectively than weak, inconsistent kindness. A ruler who punishes once, hard, and then stops, creates a clear map in people's minds. Here is the line, cross it, and you bleed. Most people do the opposite. They nag, they threaten, they back down. Their aggression drips out in petty bursts so no one takes it seriously. Pure niceness invites exploitation. You already know this. You've been the one who forgives, explains, understands, and gets drained. On the other extreme, pure aggression breeds rebellion. Live in constant attack mode and people unite against you. The Cunning blend both. They reward loyalty with generosity, access, and protection, and they punish disloyalty with surgical precision. You either command or you are commanded. There is no neutral ground. This is where emotional warfare begins. The tactic is simple. Be deeply supportive when people respect your boundaries, then go ice cold the moment they cross them. No yelling, no chasing, just distance, silence, sudden unavailability. That contrast hits harder than any speech. They feel the loss of your warmth like withdrawal. Gratitude mixes with fear. They start asking themselves, what did I do? How do I get back in? That is control. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. You are teaching people with perfect consistency that their treatment of you directly shapes their access to you. And once you understand that truth, you stop begging for respect and start pricing it. Because in the next section, you'll see exactly how this plays out in real life. The boss who fires once and never has to raise his voice again. The partner who disappears instead of arguing. The leader who uses one ruthless act to buy 10 years of obedience. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. So how do the truly cunning enforce that price? Not with endless speeches. With a blade you can't see until you're already bleeding. Picture a relationship where the highs feel almost supernatural. 1 week, your partner drowns you in affection. Constant messages. Intense eye contact. Future plans whispered at 2 a.m. You feel chosen, special, addicted. Then without warning, the warmth vanishes. Short replies. Cold tone. Sudden distance. Your nervous system starts hunting for what you did wrong. Most people call this mixed signals. Psychology calls it intermittent reinforcement. You get rewards, but not on a schedule you can predict. And that unpredictability chains you tighter than consistent love ever could. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. The one who controls when the affection appears and when it disappears controls the entire emotional field. You start working for the next hit of kindness. You replay conversations. You apologize for things you didn't do. You lower your standards just to feel that original intensity again. That is not an accident. That is weaponized kindness, with quiet cruelty sitting right behind it. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking why they're so hot and cold and start seeing the structure. The love bomb is the bait, the withdrawal is the hook. And every time you chase, you teach them how much control they really have over you. The same pattern rules the workplace. A certain boss showers the team with praise when they hit targets. Public recognition, surprise bonuses, extra opportunities that only the trusted ones receive. People feel seen, they feel loyal, they start tying their identity to that approval. Then one person steps out of line, questions a decision, flirts with a competitor. The response is immediate and surgical. Not a screaming meltdown, not a dramatic scene, just exclusion from key meetings. Emails answered last, their name quietly removed from the next big project. Everyone notices, no one talks about it. That is the point. The cruelty is rarely loud. It hides in delayed responses, in forgetting to invite you to the room where decisions are made, in removing small privileges you have grown used to, so you feel the loss like a phantom limb. Power doesn't belong to the one who shouts. It belongs to the one whose silence costs you. Understand this, the goal is not sadism. It is control. The unstoppable do not hurt people for entertainment. They calibrate. They make their positive attention scarce and intensely rewarding, and their negative reaction costly and unforgettable. You either command or you are commanded. And in the next principle, you'll see the final twist, how they hide all of this behind a flawless mask of virtue, so by the time you suspect anything, you're already defending their reputation instead of your own freedom. They hide it behind virtue. You will not. You are going to set consequences in the open, like a loaded weapon on the table, and you will do it without becoming the monster they accuse you of being. This is where most people fail. They confuse being strategically ruthless with being cruel, abusive, or vindictive, so they swing between total submission and explosive overreaction. The unstoppable do something different. They refuse to reward disrespect, manipulation, or chronic unreliability, but they do it with precision, not chaos. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Most people wait, explain, plead, then complain that no one respects them. You will not explain your boundaries like a lawyer begging a jury. You state them once, clearly, and then you enforce them. No debate. No emotional essay. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. When you stop over-explaining, you stop inviting negotiation over your standards. So what does strategic consequence look like in real life? Someone keeps showing up late, canceling, wasting your time. You do not lecture. You reduce access. You see them less. You share less. You stop centering your schedule around their chaos. Someone lies, gossips, or plays both sides. You do not start a war. You quietly redirect opportunities away from them. Their name disappears from introductions, projects, and favors. You let their own behavior cut them off from your world. Power doesn't belong to the loud, it belongs to the consistent. That starts with pre-framing your expectations. You tell people, calmly, what you reward: loyalty, honesty, effort. You tell them what you will not tolerate: disrespect, manipulation, broken agreements. Not as a threat, not as a speech, but as a simple description of how your world works. Then, when the line is crossed, the consequence does not feel random or vindictive. They were warned. They chose. Here is where you separate from the weak. Most people leak their resentment in small, passive, aggressive jabs. They stay, they seethe, they punish through mood and silence. You will not. You concentrate your cruelty. One decisive, clean break, one firm consequence. One conversation that ends the pattern instead of feeding it for years. It feels harsher in the moment, but it is less damaging than a decade of low-level poison. Ask yourself, is this a boundary, or is this a performance of pain to keep them guilty? If it is a boundary, act once. If you have to repeat it 10 times, it was never real. Pattern interrupt. Imagine treating your kindness like a scarce luxury product, not tap water. What changes overnight? Who suddenly starts trying? Who disappears? You either command, or you are commanded. From this point forward, your kindness is a privilege, not a default. Your attention is a reward, not a consolation prize. Your forgiveness has a price: changed behavior, earned trust, time, and everyone around you will feel the difference. In the next principle, you'll see how this new gravity becomes your mask, how you can enforce all of this while the world still insists you are the good one, and defends your power for you. Law 5. Think in years, not days. You want to know who is truly dangerous. It's not the one who explodes, shouts, and storms out of the room. It's the one who goes quiet. The one who smiles, nods, and starts rearranging the chessboard in their head while everyone else is still arguing over the last move. The most dangerous people you'll ever meet are not impulsive. They are patient. They think in years. They set traps that won't spring until you've forgotten they were even set, until you've relaxed, until your guard has dissolved back into comfort. Then the floor gives way, and you swear it was sudden. It wasn't sudden. It was scheduled. Most people live inside the next 5 minutes. They chase immediate relief, instant validation, the quick apology, the fast promotion. They trade long-term power for short-term emotional anesthesia, then wonder why they stay stuck. The unstoppable do the opposite. They sacrifice the small win today for structural advantage tomorrow. The kind of positioning that keeps paying them long after everyone else has burned out. Look at your own reactions. When someone disrespects you, do you rush to clap back to prove you're not weak? Or do you log the data, adjust your distance, and start designing a response that will quietly reshape the entire relationship 6 months from now? Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Once you understand that truth, you stop needing to be right in the moment and start needing to be in control over the long arc. In game theory, there's a reason the most effective strategy in repeated interactions is not pure kindness or pure aggression. It is calculated cooperation with occasional ruthless punishment. You reward what serves you. You punish what threatens you. Not emotionally. Systematically, you teach people, over time, exactly how expensive it is to cross you, and how profitable it is to align with you. This is where long-game thinkers become terrifying. They don't just react to situations, they design reputations. They craft alliances that will matter 3 crises from now. They build a narrative about who they are so convincingly reliable, moral, fair, that when conflict comes, the crowd defends them on instinct. Power doesn't belong to the one who is right. It belongs to the one whose story people already believe. So they plan for the promotion 2 cycles ahead, not the one in front of them. They seed loyalty in the quiet years before the political storm. They hide their sharpest moves behind a mask of reasonableness. So when they finally strike, it looks like the universe itself is just balancing the scales. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. In the next section, you'll see exactly how this looks in the wild. Corporate careers that were rigged years in advance, political coincidences that were anything but, and personal relationships that were engineered like campaigns. Once you see the pattern, you will never call it luck again. Power that looks sudden was usually planted years ago. The most dangerous players are not the loud ones demanding control today. They are the quiet ones setting traps that will only snap shut when everyone else has forgotten they were even built. Picture a corporate climber. On the surface, nothing special. They laugh at the right jokes, they stay late, they volunteer for the unglamorous tasks no one else wants, documenting processes, fixing boring spreadsheets, sitting in meetings that feel useless. But what are they really doing? They are mapping the institution. They befriend it, finance, legal, the executive assistant who knows everything. They collect favors. They collect secrets. Years pass. A crisis hits, a scandal, a merger, a sudden resignation. The boss is forced out and chaos erupts. Everyone looks around, panicked. Who understands all the systems? Who already has the trust of every department? Who can step in temporarily so the company doesn't collapse? The answer has been engineered. They are the only viable option because they spent years making themselves the only person who can hold the machine together. That is not luck. That is long-game manipulation. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. In politics, this is even colder. A ruthless operator never tries to ram through their true agenda at once. They drip-feed it. First, a minor policy tweak. Then a harmless pilot program. Then a narrative. Everyone is already doing this. We're just catching up. What would have been rejected outright 5 years ago now feels normal, inevitable, even responsible. By the time people wake up, the Overton window has been dragged across the battlefield and the war is already over. You see the same pattern in your personal life. Have you ever had a friend who always had your back, yet somehow you kept drifting away from everyone else? They make subtle comments. I don't want to say anything, but be careful with her. They highlight every slight, every flaw, every rumor. One by one, your other connections feel less safe, less loyal, less available. Then, conflict erupts with your group, and you look around. No one is there except them. You are isolated, dependent, and you cannot even explain how it happened. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon, and the long-game manipulator uses it in reverse. They know exactly what they are doing, while you see only isolated events. Each move looks harmless, even helpful. Taking on extra work, suggesting a small policy, sharing a concern about someone. On its own, each action is defensible. Plausible deniability is their shield. But together, those steps form a staircase leading exactly where they wanted you. Most people only track days. The unstoppable track years. Once you understand that truth and start watching for patterns instead of moments, you begin to see who is quietly arranging the board around you. The question is not whether these traps exist. The question is, in the next section, will you learn to walk around them or build your own? You will never build traps of your own if you're still busy dodging everyone else's. So now the shift begins. You stop living as a reactor and start moving as an architect. Most people only think in days. The unstoppable think in decades. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. And nowhere is that more obvious than in how people handle time. Ask yourself this now, in your career, in your relationships, in your reputation. Are you reacting to whatever shows up or quietly arranging the board 3 years ahead? Pick your 3 arenas: career, relationships, reputation. These are not random categories. They are the three levers that decide whether you command your life or are quietly commanded by everyone else. In each one, write a single sentence. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Not a fantasy. A position. A level of power. A specific reality you can point at and say, that is mine. Then you reverse the timeline. In your career, who would have to know your name? What skills would make you non-replaceable? What problems would you need to be the only one who can solve? This is how cunning operators rise in brutal corporate environments. While pretending to be harmless, they collect specialized knowledge. They become the quiet answer to high-stakes questions. And power has to move through them whether anyone likes them or not. Do the same with relationships. 3 years from now, who do you need as an ally? Who as a shield? Who as distance? You either command or you are commanded, and that includes your emotional world. Most people hoard contacts. The dangerous build alliances. They invest early in people whose value will spike later, trading cheap favors now for expensive loyalty when the stakes rise. Reputation is your mask, engineered, not accidental. What do you want whispered about you when you are not in the room? Calm under pressure, always delivers, hard to read. This is where you weaponize perception. You let the image of reliability and restraint sit on top, while underneath you are relentlessly rearranging your options. To do this, you must kill your addiction to short-term ego battles. That argument in the group chat, walk away. That colleague trying to score a petty win in front of the boss, let them. You are not here to win points, you are here to move pieces. Every time you refuse a trivial fight, you conserve energy for structural moves that actually shift your position. And yes, it will feel like losing. Pattern interrupt. What if losing the argument is winning the war? What if letting someone be right today makes them underestimate you just long enough for you to secure the promotion? The client. The exit they never saw coming. Quiet leverage is the architect's true currency. Favors owed that you never call in too early. Information you gathered while others were busy showing off. Unique value built in the dark, so when the moment comes, there is no negotiation. There is only you. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. From now on, stop asking, how do I win today? Start asking, what move makes me more powerful a year from now, even if it stings right now? Once you understand the truth, your entire life stops being a series of reactions and becomes a design. In the next section, you'll see how that design turns into something even more dangerous, an aura of inevitability that pulls people into your plans before they realize they never had a choice. Power that looks inevitable from the outside is always engineered from the inside, and one of the quietest engines behind it is this next law. Law 6. Never fight on the battlefield, they choose. Whoever chooses the battlefield has already won half the war. The time, the place, the rules, the witnesses. When you accept all of that without question, you walk into a script that was written without you. And then you wonder why you keep losing arguments you should have crushed. You either command or you are commanded. Most people don't notice when the battlefield is being chosen for them. They only notice the emotion, the sting of disrespect, the rush of urgency, the fear of being judged. Emotional triggers are not accidents, they are invitations into rigged battles. Someone attacks you in public, and your pride drags you into a scene. Someone sends a long, accusing message and demands an instant response. Someone corners you with, decide now, or the opportunity is gone. That is not negotiation. That is ambush. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. When you stay cold enough to see the setup, you realize the argument isn't about the words, it's about the terrain. Public arguments are chosen so that your need for approval becomes a leash. Rushed decisions are chosen so that your fear of loss blinds you to better options. Written confrontations are chosen so that every sentence can be screenshotted, replayed, and used as ammunition later. The emotional spike is just the bait. Machiavelli understood this long before social media. He warned rulers not to rush into wars chosen by others, not to bleed resources in conflicts that offered no strategic gain. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. The prince who fights every insult destroys himself. The one who fights only when conditions are advantageous becomes the unstoppable. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking, "Am I right?" and start asking, "Is this field worth stepping onto at all?" Look at how manipulators operate today. They don't just attack you, they design the arena. They lure you into text wars where every reply can be twisted and forwarded. They provoke you in group chats or meetings, so any reaction makes you look unstable while they play calm and reasonable. They pressure you with now or never deals, fake deadlines, and exploding offers, so your world shrinks to two bad options: surrender or self-destruction. Power doesn't belong to the strongest. It belongs to the one who refuses to play inside a rigged frame. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. In the next section, you'll see exactly how to step out of these traps without looking weak, how to delay, deflect, and quietly shift the ground until the fight, the timing, and the rules belong to you. So you've seen the trap, now you learn to walk around it. Most people only know two reactions when challenged. They explode, or they explain. Both keep them chained to the frame the other person built. The unstoppable learn a third response that quietly rewrites the rules. They shift the ground. Start with time. When someone pushes you into a corner and demands an immediate answer, they are not asking for truth. They are asking for control. You break that control with one sentence: "I'll think about it." Or, "Let's talk about this tomorrow." Then you stop talking. You don't justify the delay. You don't defend your calm. You let the silence remind them that you are not a button they can press. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Delay is not weakness when it is chosen. It is a weapon that lets emotion cool. Information surface and hidden motives reveal themselves. While they stew, you gather data. While they replay the argument in their head, you talk to others, check the facts, and watch who suddenly becomes nervous. Once you understand that truth, you stop treating urgency as a command and start treating it as a tell. Next, you shift the channel. Dangerous people love text and email because written words can be screenshotted, forwarded, and weaponized. Most hand them that power for free. You don't. When the conversation turns volatile, you say, "This isn't a text conversation. Let's talk in person." Or, "We'll handle this offline." On a call or face-to-face, tone, hesitation, and micro-reactions reveal what their curated messages hide. Digital records protect them. Live contact exposes them. Then, you attack the illusion of no choice. Manipulators love false binaries. You're either with me or against me. We do it my way or this falls apart. You answer with clarity, not compliance. There's a third option. Then you lay it out, calmly, even if it forces them to show their real agenda. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Each new option you introduce proves you are not trapped. And every trap they deny is another mask slipping. You also refuse to fight on their stage. Public confrontations drag you into performance. You are no longer solving a problem. You are playing to an audience. Power doesn't belong to the loudest performer. It belongs to the one who can move the scene. So you say, "Let's step outside. We'll talk about this privately." Away from spectators, posturing dies. Without applause to chase, most people deflate into something closer to honest. This is how you stop being dragged. You decide when you answer, where you answer, and which question you answer at all. You either command or you are commanded. From this point forward, you do not walk into rigged battles. You choose the terrain, the timing, and whether there will be a battle. But once you've seized the ground, how do you bend the people standing on it? The next principle takes this further, into reputation, masks, and the art of making others move first. Law 7. Study motives, not words. You've taken the ground. You've stopped walking into rigged battles. But now the war shifts. It's no longer about terrain. It's about narrative. Who controls the story controls the field. Most people listen to words. The unstoppable listen to hunger. The surface of language is camouflage. The real truth lives in motive, in what someone gains if you believe them, obey them, or relax around them. Once you understand that truth, conversation stops being random noise. It becomes a map of desire, leverage, and hidden threats. Most people never see this. They hear, "I just want what's fair," and they nod. They hear, "You can trust me," and they exhale in relief. They hear apologies, promises, declarations of loyalty, and they take all of it at face value. because they were trained to believe that the universe does not reward goodness, unless you assume everyone is trying their best. But power doesn't belong to the naive. It belongs to those who ask one brutal question every time someone opens their mouth. What does this person stand to gain if I accept this as true? You do not debate the sentence. You dissect the incentive behind it. You look at what they want, what they fear, what they lose if you walk away. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Research on impression management shows this clearly. People who carefully curate a moral image, who talk endlessly about ethics and values, are often trusted the most, even when their behavior contradicts that image. The louder the halo, the darker the shadow behind it. Have you noticed how the colleague who never shuts up about integrity is always near the center of every quiet scandal? Manipulators understand this instinctively. They wrap their self-interest in moral language because morality disarms you faster than charm. They say fairness when they want you to split something in a way that benefits them. They say loyalty when they're demanding one-way sacrifice. They say respect when what they really want is immunity from consequences. You hear virtue. They're engineering compliance. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. When someone says, "If you were a real friend, you do this for me," do you hear the words? Or do you see the chain they're trying to fasten around your neck? When a leader speaks of shared sacrifice, do you check who is actually bleeding? Or do you drown in the rhetoric and clap with the crowd? The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. You either command or you are commanded, and you cannot command what you do not understand. From this law forward, you stop asking, "Is this convincing?" and start asking, "Who wins if I believe this?" Because once you see through words into motive, you'll notice patterns. The guilt dealers, the saviors, the silent collectors of favors. In the next section, we break those patterns down, one by one, so you can decode motives in real time, while everyone else is still hypnotized by the speech. So how do you actually see it in real time, while their smile is still on their face? You stop listening like a believer and start listening like a strategist. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. And the truly decisive don't just hear words, they run calculations. Here is your internal question loop. Simple, brutal. Every time someone makes a request, you ask yourself, silently, without moving a muscle, if I say yes, what changes for them? If I say no, what changes? That's it. 2 doors, 2 timelines. You watch who gains power, who gains comfort, who gains cover, who gains currency. Control is the first category. If yes gives them control over your time, your schedule, your choices, you are not dealing with a favor, you are dealing with a leash. Most people miss this because the leash is wrapped in compliments, in appeals to loyalty, in fear of losing approval. You either command or you are commanded. Once you understand that truth, helping out stops being automatic and starts being a negotiation. Cover is the second motive. When yes hides their mistake, protects their reputation, or keeps their mess off the record, you are not being respected, you are being used as a shield. Remember, power doesn't belong to the one who never fails. It belongs to the one who never pays full price for their failures. Then comes comfort. If your yes saves them from discomfort, from an awkward conversation, from taking responsibility, you are being converted into emotional anesthesia. It feels noble. It feels loving. It is how the unstoppable are quietly turned into servants. And finally, currency, social or financial. If your yes makes them money, wins them status, gets them access, while your own position barely moves, understand the transaction. They are investing your energy as their capital. Watch it play out at work. A coworker leans in, "Can you take this on? We really need you to be a team player. Run the loop." If you say yes, they look competent. Their deadline is saved. Their weekend is free. If you say no, their weakness is exposed. Their tone tells you everything. Do they shift into collaboration or do they reach for guilt? Pattern interrupt. Next time, gently push. I'm at capacity. What should I deprioritize, yours or the manager's? Now watch. If their motive was fair, they problem solve with you. If it was control, cover, or comfort, the mask cracks, the guilt appears, the pressure starts. Same with a partner who calls your boundary selfish. You say calmly, explain how this harms you, not just how it stops benefiting you. That sentence is a weapon. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Their reaction reveals the agenda they never planned to say out loud. From this point forward, you are less interested in the script and more interested in the author. What do they need this story to make you do? In the next section, you'll go one level deeper, not just seeing their motives, but turning their own patterns into leverage they can't escape. Law 8. Stay calm while others bleed emotion. In every conflict, there is an invisible throne in the middle of the room. You do not win it by shouting the loudest. You win it by bleeding the least. In any clash, the most emotionally stable person quietly becomes the authority, because everyone else is too busy drowning in their own reactions to steer the ship. Panic is a crown you hand to someone else. The moment you explode, plead, over-explain, or spiral, you announce to the room, I am not in control. And once you do that, you are no longer dangerous. You are manageable. You are readable. You are easy to move. Most people believe emotional outbursts make them authentic. They think if they show all their anger, all their fear, all their hurt, they are powerful. The truth is uglier. Every outburst leaks information. Every twitch, every raised voice, every desperate text reveals your insecurities, your abandonment triggers, your need for approval, the exact buttons that will work on you when it matters most. Cunning people watch. They collect. They do not react. They record. When you scream, they learn what you fear losing. When you chase, they learn what you cannot walk away from. When you overshare, they learn which story to repeat back to you later as a weapon. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Once you understand that truth, you stop giving your enemies free ammunition disguised as emotional honesty. Social psychology has already exposed how deep this goes. In classic obedience experiments, people followed instructions to harm others with fake electric shocks, simply because the authority figure looked calm, confident, unbothered, no rage, no panic, just composed direction. Power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one whose heartbeat doesn't change while everyone else is shaking. That is what the unstoppable understand. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. When your face doesn't flinch, when your voice stays slow and measured while others are trembling, people assume you know something they don't. They defer, they obey, they feel smaller without knowing why. Truly cunning people use this like a blade. On the inside, they can be furious, insulted, even threatened. On the outside, nothing. They sit back. They breathe. They answer with 3 calm words where others would throw 30 accusations. That calm becomes a mirror that makes everyone else look childish, unstable, guilty. The more you rage, the more they look reasonable. You either command or you are commanded. Emotional control is not numbness, it is aim. In the next section, you'll learn the practical methods to build this cold, controlled presence on purpose. How to feel everything without broadcasting it, how to slow your reactions down, and how to turn your composure into a field of gravity other people cannot escape. So here is the next step in your evolution. You do not stop feeling. You stop performing your feelings for an audience that wants to feed on them. Emotional control begins with one simple, brutal move: delay. Emotional delay is the gap, the space between the hit and the response. Someone insults you, questions you, guilt trips you, tries to ambush you in a meeting. Inside, your body surges. Outside, nothing moves. You feel the wave. You do not ride it. You let it crash behind your eyes while your face stays almost still. That gap is where power is born. Most people have no gap. They are remote controls with legs. Press a button, you get a reaction. Raise your voice, they raise theirs. Withdraw approval, they panic. You are going to become dangerous because your buttons stop working. You hear the words, you feel the sting. But your response is not owned by the moment. It is owned by your decision. So how do you build that gap on command? Start with your body. When you feel triggered, do 3 things. Slow your breathing, lower your voice, reduce your words. Inhale through your nose, slow and deep. Exhale longer than you inhale. Drop your tone half a level, cut your sentences in half. While they escalate, you decelerate. While they speed up, you move like you have all the time in the world. This is not relaxation. This is control. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Slowing your breathing tells your nervous system, we are not prey. Lowering your voice forces people to lean in instead of bracing for impact. Reducing your word count removes leaks. The more you talk under fire, the more you reveal. The less you say, the more they project, and projection exposes their weakness. Next, you pre-decide. You do not improvise under emotional gunfire. You script yourself. Someone insults you in public, your default, stillness, a slight pause, then a calm line you chose days ago. Noted. Are you finished? We can discuss this when you're calm. Someone uses a guilt trip? Your line. You're responsible for your feelings. I'm responsible for my decisions. Sudden demand. Fake urgency? If it's urgent for you, plan better next time. You either command or you are commanded. Once you understand the truth, rehearsing these lines stops feeling theatrical and starts feeling necessary. But you cannot be a stone all day and then explode in the dark. Power needs drainage. You journal the raw version you never said. You put it on the page, unfiltered, so it stops echoing in your head. You train your body hard. Convert anger into force and fatigue. You speak with one or two trusted confidants who are outside the game, not inside your political landscape, because power doesn't belong to the person who never feels. It belongs to the one who can feel deeply and still choose the move that serves their strategy. So here is your new rule. Never bleed in front of sharks. Feel everything, but reveal selectively, on your terms, in your timing. Let them think you are unbothered while you take notes on their tells. In the next section, you'll learn how to weaponize that calm face even further. How to turn your silence, your pauses, and your apparent indifference into a mirror that makes other people confess more than they ever intended. You stayed quiet. You watched. You let them talk themselves into exposure. Now you learn the law that decides who ends up on the throne when the dust settles. Law 9. Divide to rule, unite to rise. Power comes from how you manage connections, not from how loud you are, not from how nice you seem. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Most people chase individual wins while ignoring the web of loyalties around them. The unstoppable study that web, cut the threads that threaten them, and weave the ones that serve their ascent. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. When you look at a room, you don't just see people. You see clusters, alliances, hidden resentments. You see who laughs together, who gossips together, who never looks each other in the eye. And once you understand that truth, you stop asking, who likes me? And start asking, who could combine against me? This is where manipulators move first, not with open attacks, but with subtle fractures. A misheard comment repeated with just enough distortion to sting. A casual, you know what she said about you, right? Dropped at the perfect moment. A tiny slight, amplified and replayed until two potential rivals no longer trust each other enough to stand side by side. They highlight differences. They magnify mistakes. They quote you slightly wrong so it sounds like disrespect. They frame every interaction as a quiet competition. Over time, people who could have been a unified threat become isolated, defensive, and busy fighting shadows that were planted in their heads. You either command or you are commanded, and divided people are easy to command. But notice the contrast. While they fracture the outside, they consolidate the inside. With their chosen few, they offer value. Information first, emotional support second. They become the one who listens at 2 a.m., the one who understands, the one who always has a useful detail that no one else seems to know. Loyalty built on gratitude and dependency is harder to break than loyalty built on vague affection. Machiavelli warned that internal factions are more dangerous than external enemies. A ruler can face an invading army. He cannot survive a court that unites behind his removal. So the cunning prevent unity long before it forms. They keep every group slightly suspicious, slightly jealous, slightly off balance, while presenting themselves as the stable center everyone can lean on. Most people stumble through their workplace, their friend group, their family, blind to this quiet war. They call it drama and complain. The unstoppable see it as architecture. In the next section, you'll see the blueprints, the specific phrases, favors, and silences people use to break alliances and build their own, so you can spot them instantly. and decide whether to dismantle them or use them yourself. Those blueprints are not abstract. They live in sentences, in invitations, in who gets told what and when. Power in social environments is built on one thing: who stands together and who quietly drifts apart. A skilled manipulator never walks up and says, "I want you two to hate each other." They do something far cleaner. They pull person A aside and say, "Look, I don't want to start anything, but B had some concerns about you." No details, no quotes, just a fog of unease. Person A walks away replaying every interaction with B, scanning for hidden insults, wondering, what did they say? What else are they hiding? The alliance is not shattered in that moment, it just starts leaking trust. That vagueness is the weapon. Specific accusations can be checked, denied, disproven. Vague concern cannot. It lives in the imagination, and the imagination is dangerous. Once you understand that truth, you stop assuming tension between people is organic. You start asking, who benefits if we stop trusting each other? You either command, or you are commanded in these invisible negotiations. Then there is selective inclusion. Watch who gets invited to the real conversations after the meeting, who gets the late-night message, "We're discussing the project, join us," while others hear about the decision the next day. That is not random. That is a map of power. Being in the room signals, you matter, you're safe. Being excluded signals, you are replaceable. You are not part of the future. Most people feel the sting, but they chase harder for approval instead of reading the message: you are being ranked. The ruthless use this constantly. They host casual drinks with two people who should never coordinate, then leave them off the next gathering and whisper to each one separately. They engineer who bonds and who stays isolated, so no coalition can rise against them. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness about who gets access and when. You are not required to play this game in the dark way to win it. You can build alliances without poison. How? Share useful information before you are asked. Give people clarity about threats and opportunities you see. Defend them publicly when it costs you little but means everything to them. Be the one constant voice that does not vanish when they are under attack. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Aim it in their favor, and they will remember. The unstoppable understand another rule: you do not need everyone. You need a few strategically placed allies who feel safer with you than without you. People who know that your presence protects their status, their projects, their reputation. Power doesn't belong to the one who is universally liked. It belongs to the one whose absence creates panic in the right rooms. So stop trying to be liked by all. Start mapping who must never unite against you, and who must never feel alone when they stand with you. In the next section, you'll see how the most dangerous players bind those key people to them so tightly that even betrayal feels impossible until the exact moment they decide to cut the rope. And once you can cut the rope, you face the next problem. What do you do with the weight of what you've done? Law 10. Let others carry the guilt. Guilt is a chain. The more you wear it, the easier you are to control. The more you announce it, the more handles you give people to drag you back into line. The unstoppable understand this instinctively. They do not volunteer for emotional prison. They let others feel responsible while they stay free to move. Most people were trained from childhood to be obedient through guilt. You're selfish. You're ungrateful. You're overreacting. Notice how those words work. They do not describe reality. They reframe it. You say no to an unfair demand. Suddenly you are the problem. They violate your boundary, then act wounded that you even have one. Have you seen this in your own life? You try to protect your time, your energy, your sanity, and someone accuses you of being cold. That is not an accident. That is framing. Manipulators are masters at turning their offense into your shame. They arrive late, they cancel, they disrespect your limits. Then with a sigh and a tilted head they say, "Wow, you're really making a big deal out of this." Now you're defending your feelings instead of their behavior. They get to keep control while you carry the emotional bill for their choices. This is moral inversion. In a culture where being endlessly nice is worshipped, refusing to carry unfair guilt makes you look dangerous. You say, "No, that's not my responsibility," and suddenly you're labeled arrogant, heartless, ungrateful. Most people fold at that moment. They would rather suffocate under guilt than face disapproval. Power doesn't belong to those people. It belongs to the one who can stand inside that tension and not flinch. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. The powerful do not make decisions to avoid guilt. They make decisions based on strategy and values, then live with the discomfort that follows. They do not apologize 12 times. They do not backtrack because someone raises their voice or starts to cry on cue. They understand that every strong boundary will be called cruelty by the person who benefited from your weakness. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Once you understand that truth, you stop accepting every accusation as a verdict. You start asking, who benefits from me feeling guilty right now? You notice how guilt appears exactly when you try to move, to separate, to claim space. You either command or you are commanded, and guilt is one of the cleanest tools of command ever invented. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. In the next section, you'll see the exact guilt-tripping tactics people use on you daily and how to cut them out of your emotional vocabulary so cleanly that manipulators feel like they're pushing on air. So let's drag the guilt weapon into the light, because you cannot dominate a game you still feel bad for refusing to lose. You've heard the lines your whole life. After everything I've done for you, I guess I just care more. Everyone else would do this. These are not innocent complaints. These are scripts. They are designed to override your boundaries, to make you question your right to say no, to turn your spine into a negotiation. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. When you hear those phrases, you don't argue with them, you tag them. You say to yourself, this is pressure, not love. This is control, not care. Most people never do this. They drown in the tone, the tears, the disappointment, the unstoppable listen for the pattern. So how do you answer without becoming reckless or cruel? You use a simple pattern. First, acknowledge the feeling, I can see you're upset. That disarms the performance. Second, restate your boundary, clean and cold, I'm still not doing that. Third, refuse to debate your right to have that boundary. We can talk about options, but my decision stands. Then you stop. No essays. No defending your character. You either command or you are commanded. Notice what you did there. You responded to the emotion without surrendering to it. You didn't attack. You didn't explain your entire life story. You just made it clear that guilt will not buy access to your time, your body, your money, or your mind. Here's where most people get trapped. They confuse regret with guilt. Regret says that action had consequences. Adjust. Regret is feedback. It is tactical. It helps you refine your strategy. Guilt says you are bad. Guilt is fog. It's a generalized feeling of wrongness that never resolves, because it was never about the specific action. It was installed to keep you small. Pattern, interrupt. Ask yourself right now, who profits when you feel guilty? Whose life gets easier every time you collapse and give in? If the same person repeatedly benefits from your guilt, you are not dealing with morality, you are dealing with control. Power doesn't belong to the one who cries the loudest. It belongs to the one who can stay decisive in the storm. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. You can correct real mistakes without submitting to emotional blackmail. You can apologize for impact without renting out your self-respect. From this point forward, you feel your conscience, not their scripts. You answer to your code, not their manipulation. And once you understand that truth, guilt stops being a leash and becomes what it was always meant to be in the hands of the dangerous. A signal, not a sentence. In the next section, you'll see how to project this untouchable calm so strongly that guilt trippers start censoring themselves before they even approach you. Law 11, make people need you more than you need them. You just stripped guilt of its power. Now you learn why the person who can walk away holds the power, and the one who can't will always negotiate from fear. That is the quiet line that separates the unstoppable from the obedient. Which side are you on? Most people beg to be chosen. They cling, they over-explain, they negotiate for their worth with discounts and apologies, then wonder why no one respects them. Power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one who looks at any relationship, any deal, any job, and knows, with cold clarity, if this disappears tomorrow, I still stand. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. When you see dependence for what it is, you stop treating it as affection and start treating it as leverage. Cunning people design their connections so that others rely on them for access, information, emotional stability, or opportunity. They become the gate, the map, and the shelter at the same time. Remove them, and the whole structure shakes. Look at the workplace. The person who knows where everything is, who can solve problems no one else understands, who quietly holds the real client relationships, can walk into a meeting with calm the official boss never feels. Why? Because if they leave, revenue bleeds. Systems stall. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness, and the decisive make themselves costly to lose. But the deepest dependency is not logistical, it's emotional. Cunning people become a primary source of validation, excitement, or security. They respond in ways that make your nervous system relax or spike on command. They give you the hit of you matter that your childhood never gave you, then they ration it. Do you see how dangerous that is? This is emotional addiction. When someone is your main source of being seen, being wanted, or feeling safe, the idea of losing them feels catastrophic. You stop asking, "Is this good for me?" and start asking, "What do I have to do to keep them?" At that point, you either command or you are commanded. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that wise rulers make themselves indispensable to their subjects. So, rebellion feels like self-destruction. If the people believe that their food, their safety, their future all flow through one figure, they will endure almost anything rather than risk cutting that cord. Fear of loss becomes stronger than hatred of control. The same principle runs through families, friendships, companies, and quiet backroom alliances. The ruler is whoever you cannot afford to lose. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking who likes you and start asking who depends on you. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. In the next section, you'll see the mechanics, how to increase others' dependence on your value while cutting your own dependence on theirs, until walking away becomes your sharpest form of control. So how do you become the one they cannot replace, without becoming the one who cannot walk away? You design asymmetry. You build relationships where your absence is more expensive than your presence, while their absence barely dents your trajectory. That is not luck. That is architecture. Start with this rare value. Most people chase attention, not advantage. They learn what everyone else knows. They do what everyone else does. And then they wonder why they are treated as interchangeable. Power doesn't belong to the interchangeable. It belongs to the irreplaceable. You become that by developing skills, knowledge, and networks no one around you has the discipline to earn. You are the only one who understands the system, the only one who can solve the complex problem, the only one with direct access to the person everyone else is trying to reach. That is not an accident. That is a deliberate refusal to stay at the level of the crowd. But value alone is not enough. You must give selectively. You do not spray your effort on anyone who looks at you. You offer help, insight, or support where it creates real leverage. You solve a critical issue for your manager. You quietly connect two people who both need you to make the introduction. You provide clarity in chaos, while others provide noise. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. Here is the line most never see. You give value, but you never give your spine. You do not overextend to the point where their approval becomes your oxygen. You can be generous without being owned. You can be useful without being used. To do that, you diversify your foundations, emotional and practical. You do not let a single person hold your entire sense of stability or opportunity. One mentor, not 10. One relationship, not your whole identity. One job, not your entire future. The unstoppable build multiple bridges so the destruction of one does not drown them. This is why the most dangerous people seem calm when others would beg. They have options. Options are power in disguise. Then you start stripping your visible neediness. Fewer check-ins. Less chasing. You stop sending 3 messages when one is ignored. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. That energy goes into your own projects, your body, your money, your craft. You become busy with your own ascent, and yes, some will notice. They will say you have become distant, cold, calculating. What they mean is that you have stopped orbiting their approval. You either command or you are commanded. Once you understand that truth, you stop apologizing for the distance required to keep your power. From now on, every connection gets one silent question. If this ended tomorrow, who would lose more? If the answer is always you are not in a relationship. You are in a cage. Your job is to rebalance the scales until losing you is a risk, not a relief. Because in the next principle, you are going to push this further. Not just being valuable, but making that value feel dangerously scarce. Dangerously scarce value means one more thing: you cannot speak like you're asking for permission to exist. Law 12. Speak like a ruler, not a beggar. Listen to the way most people talk. Every sentence is a confession of low status. I was just wondering if that's okay. I'm not sure, but they pad every request with weakness, then wonder why no one takes them seriously. Your words are not neutral. Every line you speak either crowns you or chains you. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. And language is where decisiveness is first measured. The unstoppable do not describe themselves as confused, conflicted, or trying their best. They speak in terms of decisions. Here's what we're doing. This is the deadline. I'm unavailable then. Even when they are technically asking, it sounds like a direction, not a plea. You either command or you are commanded. That battle is fought in tiny phrases most never even notice. Every just checking in, every sorry to bother you, every if that works for you is a micro bow of the head. It trains people to feel above you. They feel it in their nervous system before they ever analyze the words. And once you understand that truth, you will hear humiliation hidden inside everyday conversation. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Filler language is the safety padding weak people wrap around their own desires so they don't have to face rejection. They think it makes them polite, it makes them invisible. Powerful people use concise, direct sentences that land like decisions. No rambling. No over-explaining, no nervous laughter softening every edge. They state what will happen, then shut up and let silence do the work. Watch any real authority figure in action. A surgeon, a top litigator, a CEO who actually runs things, not a mascot. Their speech is stripped of apology and clutter. They set clear boundaries. That won't work. We're not doing that. You'll have it by Friday. Their words are future-focused, spoken as if the outcome is already in motion. People obey not because the plan is perfect, but because the voice delivering it does not sound like it needs approval to move. Every conversation is a negotiation of status, not once a week, every time your mouth opens. Most people obsess over body language hacks, while their vocabulary screams submission. They don't realize each, if it's not too much trouble, is a tiny contract, locking them into the role of the one who asks, not the one who decides. This is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. In the next section, we go surgical, exact linguistic shifts that instantly change how people respond to you, phrases that pull you out of the beggar's posture and into the ruler's frame. And the one word you must eliminate if you ever want your voice to carry real power. Language is not decoration. It is command software for your reality. Every weak phrase you let slip is a line of corrupt code that crashes your authority in the minds of the people listening. Most people speak like they are apologizing for existing. They open with, "I was wondering if, I'm not sure, but this might be dumb," and then they wonder why no one takes them seriously. The unstoppable strip those phrases out of their mouth like poison. You do not say, "I was wondering if we could try this." You say, "Here's what I propose." You do not mumble, "I'm not sure, but maybe we could." You state, "This is the plan." Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Listen to how the powerless end their sentences. Does that make sense? Is that okay? If that's not too much trouble. These are not questions. They are confessions of weakness. You either command or you are commanded. Replace them with, "Any questions on that?" Or, "We'll proceed with this unless there's a strong reason not to." You are not begging for intellectual permission. You are confirming operational understanding. Shift from questions to declarations whenever you are setting direction. The approval seeker says, "Would 3 p.m. work for you?" The one who holds power says, "I'll be available at 3 p.m. If that doesn't work, suggest another time." Same logistics. Completely different frame. One is asking to be scheduled around. The other is a fixed point the universe adjusts to. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Your boundaries must sound like policies, not personal quirks. Weak language says, I know it's annoying, but I'm weird about late calls. I don't really take them after 8 p.m. That invites negotiation, guilt, and testing. Command language says, I don't take calls after 8 p.m. If it's urgent, send a message and I'll address it tomorrow. No apology, no explanation. A rule. People respect rules because rules carry consequences. Now the pattern interrupt. Your words are not just heard by others, they are heard by you. Every time you hedge, you are training your nervous system to see yourself as lower status, so you will act lower status. Slow your speech. Cut the nervous laughter. When you finish a sentence, do not rush to fill the silence. Let it hang. Let people sit in it. Silence is the sound of power landing. From this point forward, every sentence is a vote for who you are. Speak like someone whose decisions shape the room, not someone pleading for a seat in it. Because in the next section, we turn from spoken commands to silent ones, how your posture, movement, and stillness can dominate a space before you say a single word. Your body walks into the room before you do. Your silence speaks before your mouth opens. But all of that power collapses if you misread the people watching you. Law 13. See people as they are, not as you need them to be. Most people don't relate to who is in front of them. They relate to a fantasy, a story they've stitched together from hope, loneliness, and fear. That fantasy is a leash. Your fantasies about people are the strings they pull. The unstoppable cut those strings. They refuse to confuse what they want with what is real. You meet someone charming, attentive, saying all the right words. You need them to be loyal, different, safe, so you edit. You ignore the way they speak about former friends. You excuse the small lies. You explain away the selfishness as stress. How many times have you done this? How much power have you handed over to people you barely understood? Idealization is self-inflicted blindness. Projection is voluntary weakness. When you project goodness onto someone, you stop investigating. You stop tracking patterns. One betrayal becomes a misunderstanding. A second becomes bad timing. A third becomes your fault. Most people would rather keep their comforting illusion than face the truth that the person they chose is dangerous. Machiavelli had no patience for that delusion. He wrote that people are generally ungrateful, fickle, and driven by fear and gain, not sometimes. Usually, he understood that the universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. Once you understand that truth, you stop being shocked when gratitude fades the moment a better offer appears. You stop expecting loyalty from those whose only God is advantage. Manipulators know this weakness in you. They know you want to believe you finally found someone special, someone not like the others. So they feed that hunger. They mirror your values. They perform virtue. They weaponize apologies. They build a mask of goodness and let you do the rest of the work, filling in the gaps with your own fantasies. They don't need to be perfect. They just need you hopeful. And hope without clarity is camouflage. While you cling to the story that they are misunderstood, they are busy repositioning you, testing how much disrespect you will swallow, measuring how far they can push before you break. You either command or you are commanded. And those who need to see people as good are the easiest to command. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. To the sentimental, it looks cruel to assume self-interest, to expect inconsistency, to plan for both loyalty and betrayal. To the powerful, it is just armor. You stop asking, what do I want them to be? And start asking, what do their actions keep revealing? In the next section, we sharpen that weapon. You will learn how to strip away these illusions, read people by their patterns, and judge every character in your life by behavior, not by the story they sold you. So you stop listening to their speeches. You start watching their feet. Most people live in a fantasy about who others are. They collect quotes, apologies, promises. The unstoppable collect something else entirely. They collect data. Cold, unforgiving, behavioral data. Because the universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness about reality. You want power? Start keeping a quiet ledger, in your head or on a page, not of what people say when it costs them nothing, but of what they do when it costs them comfort, status, effort, or risk. Who showed up when it was inconvenient? Who disappeared the moment there was no spotlight? Who was generous when no one was watching, and who only performed generosity for an audience? That log becomes your private court record. It is how you sentence people to distance. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. You use it by tracking patterns across contexts. Does this person defend you only when it is socially safe, then go silent when the room turns? Do they tell the truth when the stakes are low, then suddenly become confused when the truth would expose their weakness? Are they loyal in private, but strangely neutral in public? One act can be an accident. A pattern is a confession. The cunning do not wait for life to expose people. They run small experiments. You set a minor boundary, a simple no. Do they respect it, or pressure you, guilt you, negotiate your standards down? You make a small, low-risk request. Help with something that gives them no immediate benefit. Do they follow through, or do they vanish behind excuses? That reaction is not random. It is a preview of how they will handle bigger boundaries, bigger secrets, bigger opportunities. You either command or you are commanded, and the ones who get commanded are the ones who refuse to update their story. They cling to but they're a good person, while the evidence screams otherwise. When new behavior contradicts your old narrative, you do not argue with the evidence. You execute on it. You downgrade access. You tighten what they can see, what they can touch, what they can damage. Most people stay loyal to their fantasies. You will become loyal to reality. That is the pivot. When someone shows you who they are through repeated action, you stop negotiating. You adjust your strategy. You trust patterns over potential, behavior over backstory, consequences over explanations. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. Because once you understand that truth, you're ready for the next step, not just reading patterns, but quietly engineering them, and deciding exactly what role every person in your life is allowed to play. Law 14 is simple, brutal, and completely misunderstood. Move in silence, strike with clarity. Most people broadcast every thought. They leak every plan. They ask for opinions from people who have never built anything. Then they wonder why their momentum dies before it even starts. The unstoppable do the opposite. They go quiet when they're moving pieces. Then, when the moment comes, they act in a way that leaves no doubt what just changed. You plan quietly. You act loudly. That is the law. When you talk through every detail of your next move, you invite three enemies: sabotage, criticism, and your own self-doubt. People will project their fear onto you. They will question your timing, your capacity, your right to want more. And the more you explain, the more you start negotiating with their weakness instead of your vision. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Every extra conversation is a chance for your own mind to turn against you. Silence protects you from that decay. In silence, you are not defending your plan. You are refining it. You are running simulations in your head, adjusting angles, preparing contingencies. No one is poking holes in your confidence. No one is rehearsing their resistance. While they think nothing is happening, you are stacking advantages they cannot see. Then comes the strike. Decisive action hits harder when there is no visible warm-up. You do not spend 6 public months thinking about quitting the job. You hand in your resignation and walk out clean. You do not drag out a dying relationship through a year of threats and tears. You end it once, directly, and refuse to reopen the negotiation. You do not tease your project for years. You build in the dark, then release something finished that forces people to recalibrate who they are dealing with. Clarity is not a virtue. It's a weapon. The moment you move, your actions should say exactly what you are now, and exactly what you will no longer tolerate. No mixed signals, no half steps. You either command or you are commanded. When your behavior is sharp and final, people stop arguing with your words and start adapting to your reality. This is where Law 14 links back to your control of information. Secrecy protects your moves while they are fragile. Clarity in execution cements them once they are real. You reveal nothing when you are still deciding. You reveal everything when the decision is already done. That contrast is what creates an aura of inevitability. By the time they see the move, it is too late to stop it. And this is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. Because in the next section, you will learn how to build this rhythm into your life so your moves stop looking optional and start feeling inevitable, both to you and to everyone who dares to stand in your way. Power is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the dark, when no one is watching you grind through the parts that don't look impressive on a screen. The unstoppable understand this. They disappear before they appear. Most people reverse the order. They announce the dream, post the declaration, demand applause before they've earned a single scar. Then the universe exposes them. No skill, no plan, no resilience. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness, and decisive action without preparation is just a loud, public failure on fast forward. Your advantage begins in private. You do the messy research when everyone else is scrolling. You build the skills while they're still fantasizing. You process the rage, the grief, the fear alone, so you don't bleed it all over the very people you need to misdirect. You run contingency after contingency until you know, with brutal clarity, what you will do when things go wrong. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. But here is where most stall. They prepare forever. They hide in, almost ready. That is another form of fear. So you set a private deadline, a date on the calendar that does not care how you feel. When that day arrives, you move. No more new information. No more one more week. You either command or you are commanded. And endless preparation is just obedience to your own hesitation. Ask yourself, if you had to act within 30 days, what would you do differently tonight? What would you cut? What would you finish? That question is your pattern interrupt. It rips you out of fantasy and drags you into a clock that is actually ticking. Then comes the break. The exit. When you end something, you end it clean. A job, a relationship, a partnership, a habit. No essays, no long justifications that invite debate. This no longer works for me. I'm done. That is it. Explanations are bait. They pull you back into negotiation, into guilt, into the old role you already outgrew. Power doesn't belong to the one who argues best. It belongs to the one who walks away and does not look back. You do not promise that you will change. You change. You stop saying you'll get serious, and you simply become serious. You stop warning people you're about to be different, and you just are different. Let your actions arrive unannounced, like a hammer through glass. People will adjust to the new version, or they will fall away. Both outcomes serve you. From this point forward, your life is not shaped by what you say you're going to do. It is carved by those quiet, sharp moments when you finally do it. In the next section, you'll see how to make these decisive strikes part of your identity until hesitation feels unnatural and movement becomes your default state. Law 15, become the dangerous one in the room. Those decisive strikes mean nothing if the world still reads you as harmless. You can act, you can move, you can execute, but if people secretly believe you will always fold, they will keep testing you, they will keep pushing, they will keep taking. The law is simple. The most protected person is not the nicest. It is the one everyone knows can walk away, say no, and enforce consequences without flinching. You are safe when loss is more dangerous for them than for you. You are untouchable when the cost of crossing you is clear and paid in full every time. Understand what dangerous really means here. It is not rage. It is not theatrics. It is having options, boundaries, emotional control, and a cold willingness to act in your own interest without endless explanation or apology. Most people trade all of that away for approval. They beg to be seen as good, as loyal, as forgiving, and then they wonder why the universe keeps handing them disrespect. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. Power doesn't belong to the one who feels the most. It belongs to the one who can feel everything and still move in the direction that serves their long game. Once you understand that truth, you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do they understand what happens if they try to use me?" This is where every previous law converges into a single presence. Your hidden motives mean no one can predict your full agenda. Your engineered reputation lets them underestimate your ruthlessness while overestimating your softness. Your control of information means they never see the full map. Your emotional composure keeps your face calm while there's cracks. Your long game thinking ensures that every boundary you set, every silence you hold, is part of a larger design. That combination is dangerous. Not because you shout, because you don't have to. Truly dangerous people rarely need to threaten. Their track record speaks. Their energy speaks. You can feel, standing next to them, that disrespect does not vanish into the air, it returns with interest. People like this say no once, and the room rearranges itself. Most will never reach this state because they are addicted to being understood. They over-explain their boundaries, they negotiate their standards, they warn and warn and warn. The unstoppable do something else. They let cause and effect educate people. They make one decisive move, then watch who adjusts. From here, the game changes. You are no longer playing defense against predators. You are no longer rehearsing speeches in your head, trying to convince parasites to value you. You either command or you are commanded. In the next sections, you'll see how to lock this law into your identity, how to walk into any room as quiet danger, and how to shift your daily behavior so that being prey is no longer even an option. Identity is the real battlefield. Techniques are just weapons lying on the floor. If you treat this code as a bag of tricks, you will burn out. You will feel fake. You will feel like you're wearing someone else's armor. Heavy, unnatural, exhausting. Most people stay weak for one reason. They try to change tactics while keeping the same submissive identity. They still see themselves as prey, just with sharper teeth. That never works. Power doesn't belong to people who try new behaviors on weekends. It belongs to those who decide, at the level of identity, this is who I am now. Once you understand the truth, the laws stop feeling like effort and start feeling like instinct. You are not acting. You are revealing a version of yourself that was buried under years of conditioning and cheap morality. So you need a name. A private label, not for other people. For you. Architect, strategist, ruler of my life. Predator. Which one hits a nerve when you say it out loud? Which one feels dangerous? Slightly uncomfortable, but honest. That is your anchor. Every time you hesitate, you return to it. What does the architect do here? How does the strategist move in this room? You either command or you are commanded, and identity decides which side you stand on. Here is where identity meets practice. Each night, you ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I reveal too much motive today? Where did I trade long-term power for short-term comfort? Where did I act like prey instead of predator? Those questions are not journal prompts. They are a mirror. They strip away your excuses and expose the exact moments you betrayed your new self. Most people avoid this level of clarity because it hurts. But clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. You replay the day like surveillance footage. That over-explained text. That nervous laugh when someone pushed your boundary. That instant you softened your stance just to keep their approval. You mark each one as a violation of your code. Not to hate yourself, but to tighten your control tomorrow. And you start small. You do not need to live all 15 laws at once. The unstoppable do not rush, they build. This week you focus on 1 or 2 laws only. Maybe conceal your motives and control your emotional display. You run experiments. In one conversation, you reveal less. In another, you delay your reaction by 3 seconds and answer from logic instead of emotion. You collect data like a strategist mapping a war. Then you stack. Each week, another law. Another layer. Competence becomes confidence. Confidence becomes aura. People will feel the difference before they can explain it. Understand this. You are not putting on a costume. You are shedding a weaker skin. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. You are not becoming someone else. You are returning to the version of you that was dangerous before you were trained to be harmless. In the next section, you'll see how to project this new identity outward, how to let your presence speak before you open your mouth, and how to make your power feel inevitable to everyone watching. You are now armed. That's the danger. Once you understand that truth, the temptation arrives. You could use this code the way most predators do, as a blunt weapon, swung at anyone too slow to move. You could lie cleaner, extract more, leave people bleeding and call it strategy. But understand this, a blade that crude always circles back. The same universe that ignores your goodness tracks your carelessness. So you reframe the tools. This code is not a hammer, it is a shield and a scalpel. The shield protects you from those who already live by these rules in the dark. The scalpel lets you cut away illusions, diseased loyalties, parasitic attachments. You do not have to become a monster to navigate a world full of them. You just cannot stay harmless. Most people fear this knowledge because they assume understanding manipulation means becoming a manipulator. That is a lie the manipulative spread. When you study tactics, you are not swearing allegiance to them. You are building pattern recognition. You see the love bombing before it hooks you. You notice the guilt trip before you pay with your self-respect. You recognize engineered reputations, the moral mask that hides the ruthless agenda behind it, and you quietly step out of range. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. When you see how people plant doubts, weaponize secrets, and use approval as a leash, you stop asking, why are they doing this to me? And start asking, why am I still standing here? Power doesn't belong to the blind. It belongs to the one who can map the battlefield without flinching. But power without a line is just corruption, waiting for an opportunity. You need a boundary written in stone, not sand. What deceptions will you refuse, even when no one would ever find out? Which forms of exploitation are beneath you, even if they would make you rich, admired, untouchable? You either command or you are commanded, but you decide what you will never command another person to sacrifice for your gain. This is how you use the code to build healthier dynamics instead of toxic ones. You see the truth of someone's character sooner, so you stop romanticizing potential and start responding to reality. You enforce clearer boundaries, not with drama, but with distance. You become allergic to emotional blackmail. The moment someone tries to make your fear, guilt, or loneliness their leverage, you treat it as an attack, not a negotiation. The unstoppable are not those who do everything they can. They are those who could do more harm than they do and choose restraint. Your danger now is real. You understand psychological warfare, long game traps, and the cost of illusion. Your power is no longer measured only by what you can make happen, but by what you consciously refuse to do. In the next section, you'll see how to project this controlled danger outward, how to let people feel your boundaries before they test them, and how to make restraint look like effortless dominance. Now step back and see the whole machine you've been building. This isn't a collection of tricks. This is an operating system for power. Law 1. You hide your true motives. You speak in decoys, move in misdirection, and let people misread you while your real agenda advances in silence. Law 2. You engineer your reputation. In public, you wear the mask of virtue. In private, you make ruthless moves. People defend the image you fed them, even against the evidence in front of their eyes. Law 3. You control information. You decide who knows what and when. You leak, you withhold, you distort. Reality becomes what you consistently frame. Law 4. You stay emotionally composed. While others shake, overshare, and panic, you remain still. Your calm becomes authority, their chaos becomes your leverage. Law 5. You think in the long game. You plant seeds that sprout years later, set traps that trigger when everyone else has forgotten the first move. The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Law 6. You weaponize clarity. You see people without illusion, motives without the comfort of stories. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Law 7. You use calculated kindness and strategic cruelty. You give just enough warmth to make people dependent, just enough coldness to keep them off balance and obedient. Law 8. You cultivate dependence. You solve the problems that matter most, then pull back. Your absence hurts. Your presence becomes non-negotiable. Law 9. You master distance and mystery. You are visible but never fully accessible. People fill the gaps with awe, fear, and projection. Law 10. You create an aura of inevitability. You move like you cannot be stopped. Progress is visible, panic is hidden. The unstoppable attract followers who fear being left behind. Law 11. You practice psychological warfare. You plant doubts, fracture alliances before they form, and let secrets sit like explosives under the floorboards of your enemies' relationships. Law 12. You alternate order and chaos. Predictable structure, then sudden disruption. People stay guessing while you stay in control. Law 13. You turn loss into leverage. Every failure becomes data, narrative, and weapon. You evolve so fast that past versions of you look like decoys. Law 14. You stop begging for approval. You define yourself, then enforce that definition. You either command or you are commanded. Law 15. You become the dangerous one in the room. Not loud, not theatrical, quietly capable of harm, and consciously restrained. See the pattern. Secrecy protects your plans. Reputation shields your actions. Information control shapes what people believe is real. Emotional composure stabilizes your presence. Long-game thinking directs the entire path. This is the transformation, from being played to seeing the board, from reacting to architecting, from chasing validation to commanding respect. Once you understand that truth, you realize this is not a lesson in motivation, it's a manual for domination. And while you hesitate, people around you are already using fragments of this code against you. That charming coworker who always accidentally knows more than they should, that friend who disappears until they need something, then floods you with affection. They are running pieces of this playbook, consciously or not. So what do? You rewatch. You take notes. You study this like a manual, not entertainment. Power doesn't belong to the distracted. Because in the next section, you'll learn how to project this code so deeply into your presence that people feel your boundaries before they see them, and start policing themselves around you. You don't install a new operating system by thinking about it. You run the code. You stress test it. You watch what breaks. So for the next 30 days, you become the experiment, not in theory, in blood and schedule. Each week, you take 3 or 4 laws and you tie them to one small, ruthless daily action. One boundary enforced, one motive concealed, one emotion delayed until after the decision is made. That's how the unstoppable are built. Not by inspiration, by repetition. Week 1, you focus on perception and silence. Each day, you let one question hang unanswered. You reveal less than you know. You speak slower, with fewer words, but with more weight. You watch how people fill the silence with their own weakness. Week 2, you practice distance and scarcity. You respond later. You decline one pointless invitation. You let your absence sting. Power doesn't belong to the constantly available. Week 3, you sharpen emotional detachment. Something irritates you? You wait 1 hour before responding. You watch your surge of anger or hurt rise and fall, and you answer from strategy, not from the wound. Week 4, you play with aura. You move as if your path is already decided. You walk into rooms like outcomes bend toward you. The universe does not reward goodness, it rewards decisiveness. To keep this from dissolving into vague effort, you choose 3 arenas. 1 relationship, 1 workplace situation, 1 personal project. These are your laboratories. In that relationship, you stop over-explaining and test what happens when you enforce 1 clear boundary a day. At work, you pick a negotiation, a meeting, or a political dynamic, and you quietly apply the code. Less apology, more authority, fewer explanations. On your project, you act as if no one will save you. No help, no rescue, only leverage and execution. Every night, you sit down with brutal honesty and 3 questions. Where did I act like prey? Where did I act like a strategist? What did I see today that I used to be blind to? Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon. Most people avoid those questions because they expose the truth. You either command or you are commanded. Pattern interrupt. Do not just nod along here. Pause this, write those questions down, and decide right now which 3 laws own your first week. Once you understand that truth, you see why this is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. As you run this 30-day challenge, watch the subtle shifts. People start responding to your tone, not your excuses. They back up when you don't overshare. They lean in when you speak with calm certainty and stop apologizing for existing. You'll feel more peace, not because the universe became fair, but because you took control of your position. You don't have to believe every law yet. Treat this as a cold experiment. Run the code. Track the data. Because in the next section, we'll weaponize your presence itself so your power is felt before you say a single word. So now the question is no longer, does this work? The question is, who are you going to be? Now that you know it does. You can close this video and walk back into the world exactly as you were, or you can walk back in as someone new, someone dangerous to underestimate. Most people will choose comfort. They will cling to the story that the universe is fair, that if they are good, patient, and polite, Life will eventually notice and reward them. You know the truth? The universe does not reward goodness. It rewards decisiveness. Power doesn't belong to the nicest. It belongs to the ones who move, while everyone else is still debating whether it's too much. So here is your line in the sand. Do you continue as an easy target, broadcasting your weakness, waiting for approval from people who would feed on you the moment it becomes convenient? Or do you step into the discomfort of becoming someone others cannot easily use, cannot discard, cannot quietly erase when you stop being useful? You either command or you are commanded. There is no neutral role in a world where bosses, partners, leaders, and even friends are running silent negotiations in their heads. Once you understand that truth, playing harmless stops feeling noble and starts feeling suicidal. Clarity is not a virtue, it's a weapon, and refusing to wield it does not make you good. It just makes you available. Look around your own life. The person at work who advances while doing less. The charming friend who always seems to get the benefit of the doubt. They are not waiting for fairness. They are using methods. They understand perception, distance, timing, and leverage, even if they never use those words. While most argue about what's right, they quietly collect power and act. So here is your challenge. Do not think about this later. Pick one law from this code and apply it in the next 24 hours. Tighten your boundaries with one person who drains you. Withhold one unnecessary explanation. Reveal less than you know in one conversation, and watch who fills the silence. Then come back here and write what happened. What shifted? Who reacted? What did you see that you were blind to yesterday? This is not a lesson in motivation. It's a manual for domination. And we are only at the surface. If you are done being prey, subscribe now. Stay close. We will be dissecting each principle, breaking down real-world power plays in business, relationships, and politics that you walk past every day without seeing. You were not born to be harmless. You were born to be conscious, controlled, and capable. Learn the code, live the code, and never again apologize for refusing to be prey.